Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go over one question for each of these teaks. So if you missed a couple of questions that were about area of composite figures, make sure you're paying attention to the video, following along with the steps so that you can do the rest of them on your own. Let's go ahead and read the first one. Let's see. The first one here says, Jessica's cutting out a piece of fabric in the shape below. How much will she need? Round to the nearest whole number. Now, the first thing that we want to do is write down our eighth. This is just to remember what steps it's asking us to do. So here we have three different shapes. We have this half circle or semicircle. We have a rectangle, and we have a triangle. So let's go ahead and start with shape one. Take a look at your formula chart and make sure to write the correct formula. For a circle, we have pi times radius squared. Now, while you're copying this down, make sure that you're also looking for this stuff in your formula chart. Go ahead and substitute. So for pi, we have the number 3.14 times our radius. Now remember, radius goes from the center of the circle to one side. So if this tells us that this whole thing is 8, that's my diameter. My radius would be half of that. That's going to be 4 squared. Go ahead and solve after we substitute. Now, when we get our answer, we have to remember this isn't a full circle. This is half of a circle. So when we get our answer by multiplying, you have to divide by 2. Go ahead and when you divide by 2, write that answer off to the side because you're going to need it later. So that's just what we need for our first shape. We're going to do the same thing for our second shape. For shape 2, we have this rectangle. Our formula, take a look in your formula chart, is going to be A equals base times height. So when we see that it's asking for base times height, let's go ahead and look for that. This tells us that it's 14, but that's not just the rectangle. That's also part of the triangle. So my base is this 10 right here. It goes from one side to the other side. So 10 times whatever my height is. So the distance between my top and the bottom is 8. So that's my height. Multiply your two numbers, write it off to the side. You're going to need that area for later. Now we're going to do the same thing for this bottom shape. Again, write down everything, analyze, plan, and evaluate. We're talking about our third shape right here. Look in your formula chart, look for area, and then look for the triangle. You'll see that it says 1/2 base times height. So we're going to multiply our base times height, and whatever we get, we need to divide it by 2 so that we can get half of it. My base goes from here to here. I know that this whole thing is 14. Because the top is 10 here, this has to be 10 too. So 4 is what's left over. Times my height, how tall it is. If it's 8 on one side, it's 8 on the other. So go ahead, multiply. Don't forget to get half of that, whatever you get when you multiply base times height. Whenever you get all of your areas, your last step is going to be to add. So add the half circle plus the rectangle plus the triangle. Whatever you get when you get your answer is going to be the correct one. Let's go through another one of these. So we have this shape right here. This time it's asking us to find the area of just the shaded figure. So we don't want this whole thing, but we do have to see our two shapes. If you have one shape inside of another one, you're going to have to subtract. So you'll look up here, the one that we did before, it was shapes that were next to each other. The same thing with this one right here. If the shapes are next to each other, you're going to add them. If they're inside of one another, that's when you have to subtract. So let's start with our big shape. The bigger shape here is this triangle. So let's go ahead and start following our steps. So we need the area for shape 1, this triangle right here. Just like in the last one, look in your formula chart, look for the title that says area, and then look for where it tells you about the triangles. It should say 1/2 base times height. We substitute 1/2, my base from one side to the other is 16 times my height from the bottom to the top. Over here, they give me 24. Multiply your two numbers and then get half of it. That's going to give you your big area. Now we do the same thing for our second shape. Now this one right here is a quarter circle. Think about it like money. A quarter means 1/4. So first we need to get the area of the whole circle, and then we only want one small part of that. So that's going to be shape 2. This one right here. Look in your formula chart. Your formula for a circle is still pi times the radius squared. Look for what pi is. 3.14 times your radius. Now for this one, this is already my radius because it's not the whole circle and it's not the half circle. It's breaking the half. So they already got that one for you. 4 squared. So get 4 squared, multiply by 3 1/4. Once you get that answer, just remember that that's giving you the area for one whole circle. This is only 1/4. So whenever you get that answer, you need to divide by 4. So once you get that final answer, you have both of the areas that you need. You have the area for shape 1 and the area for shape 2. The last thing you have to do with these is subtract. Whatever you got for shape 1 minus what you're taking away with shape 2. That's going to leave you with the rest of the shaded area. So make sure you're copying down these steps and try the next two that are like this by yourself.